everybody, thanks for joining us today on Realty Check. I'm your host Trish Williams. If you guys are watching our show, please make sure to send us a review, download the show, share it with your friends. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music. We're out there everywhere. We're also on YouTube and right here on Facebook. So you have plenty of spaces to listen to us. I do want to give a shout out this morning. I spoke with Stern Sithen in Atlanta. He's a KW agent and he's been watching our show, and I was so excited to hear that we're all the way out in Atlanta. So thank you so much, Stern, for watching our show, and I really appreciate you following us. And we've reached 500 downloads, so we're really excited about that. We're really excited about the traction that the show's getting, and people like you that are just continuing to watch us and follow us is really making this happen. So thank you, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the content. Today, we are going to be in our second part of our series where we're discussing what is a real estate purchase from the beginning to the end. What happens on the whole process. So today, we're going to talk about contingencies. Contingencies is a word that you hear a lot when you're purchasing, selling, everything, but not everybody knows what it means or what each one means. We're going to talk about what they mean, how they can go right, how they can go wrong, and why they're important, because we're in a market where a lot of contingencies are getting waived, but some consumers don't really know why or what they are. So we have our guest today with us, Liz Lane, Keller Williams Realty. Thank you, Liz, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the invite.
I appreciate having you on here. So me and Liz are going to do what we do and talk real estate, and we're going to talk about what all of these contingencies mean. So one of the most important first contingencies in a contract is the buyer's due diligence, right?
Absolutely. The buyer needs to know what's really going on with that house. You get to do inspections. The seller gets to disclose issues that they know about.
Right.
You want to look at your title. Is the title clear? You'll get a preliminary title report, and those are important to look at to see what's actually gone on with the history of the house.
Right. Sometimes you see something fishy there, and you're like, hey.
Right. Or there's a gap. What happened between 1970 and 1978? Where did that go?
Yeah, exactly. Or, it's been signed over to like 6 or 7 different family members. Red flags, right?
Absolutely.
We look for red flags. And that doesn't mean that you have to cancel, but it does mean that you need to inquire.
Absolutely. And even if you're waiving repairs, you can request for repairs when your inspection comes back and you find something. Even if you intend to waive the request for repairs, you still want to know that the first time it rains, that southwest corner of the roof is probably going to leak on you.
Yeah.
So you want to know ahead of time whether or not you intend to ask for it in the contract before closing.
Right. And that's something that's a very important point that you mentioned there. A lot of times, especially in the market that we're in right now, buyers are saying, I'm going to buy the home as is. That does not necessarily mean you're waiving your due diligence period, because due diligence is for you to find out anything.
Absolutely. You definitely want to know what's going on. You need to know what's going on under. A month after you buy the house, is there going to be a problem in the sewer line? There may be, but at least you'll know ahead of time and you can plan accordingly or negotiate the contract accordingly.
Yeah.
Or walk away and still maintain, reclaim your earnest money deposit, your EMD.
Absolutely. So that's having that contingency in place gives you the right to get informed on the house. Just because you're agreeing to buy it as is does not mean you don't know the condition of the house until you have a home inspection.
Right.
Another thing that's important to people, neighborhood, school zones, things like that. When you make an offer on the home these days too, you have to decide to make an offer in 5 minutes, right? You're
Absolutely.
Like,
you
I
can't
like
wait.
It. Yes. You don't have time to do research. So due diligence gives you that time to do research, gives you that time to check things out. I usually recommend to my buyers, drive through at night. You want to get to know the community.
You visit it at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday and it's quiet and there's nobody around. You drive through at 10:30 on a Friday night and it may be party central. You don't know.
Yeah. But and you may like that.
You might like it, or you may say, no, I go to bed at 8 o'clock. I don't want to be partying outside at 10:30. And that you can still cancel your contract and you can still reclaim your earnest money deposit without problems.
Absolutely. In grocery stores, one of the things that I always advise people is like, go to the grocery store, you're gonna, you really want to know what the neighborhood's like. I would love to say that I know what every neighborhood in Vegas is like, but I don't. You live where you live. You don't know what it's like to live anywhere else. And it's go to the grocery stores. Check out, it's a grocery store is your neighborhood. It is your neighborhood.
I like to check for school zones. How many school zones am I going to hit between home and my way to the office when I'm running late and have to slow down to 15 miles an hour?
Right, exactly, right? So it depends on your lifestyle and what's important to you. That's what really makes the difference. So contingencies protect your earnest money deposit. So when buyers will put up a deposit to buy a home, say on a $300,000 home, we're looking at $3,000 if it's 1%. A lot of times we're seeing 2% these days.
Absolutely.
Or higher. Yeah.
Offering more, trying to get better offers and, make it stronger.
Right. That earnest money deposit, EMD, is your good faith deposit. You're saying that I'm going to put this money up as collateral in order to follow through with this purchase. But you still have the contingencies that have to happen, which if something goes wrong during those times, you're able to get that money back. So you're having collateral that I'm purchasing in good faith, but the contingencies also give you the right to be informed and to have the process done as it should.
And time to do it. You can't say, I'll give you 24 hours, go look at it and see if you find anything wrong. You can't do you can't get everything done in that 24 hours. So usually your due diligence, 14, 20 days, somewhere in there, maybe 10 even, longer or shorter in today's market.
Yeah, in today's market, it's usually about 10 days for due diligence, and sometimes we're seeing 5 to 7 days, which really just puts you kind of under the gun. But it's the sign of the times that we're in right now.
It's a crazy market.
It's a crazy market, and it might be a little more stressful on the buyers during that time of trying to get everything done in such a short time period, but it's not impossible. And if you're really committed, we can definitely make it happen. So,
absolutely.
In 2 days, I don't think that could happen. 5 days, I would say, is a good minimum.
Definitely wouldn't go shorter than that.
Yeah.
Our inspectors are busy too.
Absolutely. And even if you're waiving all the other contingencies on the contract, I still believe due diligence is so very important.
Absolutely. We have a lot of investors or cash buyers now that are putting in offers without it being seen to try to beat the barrage of offers you're going to get on a property. But they still need to, okay, here's my offer, I want to buy it, but I do need to get in there and look at it, and I do need to have it inspected. So absolutely.
Yes.
Never waive.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about that, this sight unseen for a minute. Sight unseen and due diligence. So sometimes we see, and we're seeing them a lot more often now than we ever did before, is we're seeing properties that are on the market. They may be tenant occupied, and that is the case in most cases. And they say, we want our offers contingent upon showing, which means you're working backwards. You're making the offer before you see the house. And some buyers are like, no way, that's not, that doesn't make any sense. That's not right. I want to see the home before making the offer. But what I usually explain to buyers, you're really not committing, you're committing to the price, the terms, saying that you're going to buy that, but you have not seen the house yet. We put that contingency, which it's very important that your agent has that contingency spelled out in additional terms, that buyer has not seen the house. This is contingent upon viewing. I usually add into the contract that we're not even going to deposit the EMD until you let us in to see the house.
After the showing.
Because we don't want to be waiting on you to release it back to us if you go inside the house. And we went inside one that we had did that way. It was a multi-family unit. Went inside and it was just pest infested, crawling up the walls. It was horrible. So,
no. And the pictures don't show that. You can go online and look at pictures, and some people say, those are beautiful pictures, put my offer and I want it.
Yeah.
And maybe you walk in and there's a feeling, you walk in, you walk through it and you're right, the pictures are beautiful, it is a beautiful house, but no, it's just not right for us.
It's just not working right.
Or the flip side of that, oh my gosh, I do love it just as much as I thought I would, and they've already got our offer let's make that deposit. Let's give them the earnest money deposit.
Let's go forward with that. Yeah. There's nothing to be afraid of for the buyers in that scenario. Yes, it works backwards. And it seems odd, but you have to look at the reason why they're doing it that way. It's not to get over on you. It's not to take advantage of the buyers. It's because there's a tenant occupying that property. They have a leasehold interest while they're in that property. And if they do not want 20 to 50 buyers trampling through that house every day, they have the right to say no. And the landlord, even though they have the right to sell the property, or the tenants on a month-to-month, or maybe they're looking for people to assume the lease or anything like that, they want to see the offers and they want to agree on, be able to come to terms with a buyer before having them go through the house. So it's not an inconvenience or a burden on the tenant while it's being shown.
Or even your higher end properties. Sometimes people just want to get in. Oh, I wonder what a $5 million house would look like. Let's just go see it.
Right.
Schedule. So if you have the offer, if you've offered the proof of funds or the pre-approval, then they know it's a legitimate offer, and you can come in. It just prevents all the looky-loos.
Right. And some owner-occupied homes because of COVID right now, they don't. And it is true. We have a home that comes on the market. If it's a good price and it's an attractive home, you're going to have 30 to 50 buyers.
Absolutely. We've got plenty of offers right now. Your properties with 30 offers on it.
Yeah, they're all going to want to come in and see it. You just, you got to plan your day away from home. And some people in this market just do not want that at all.
Absolutely.
So they'd rather review the offers, see the terms, come to terms with someone, then schedule the showing. But that doesn't mean that you don't have the right to cancel, because that's why due diligence is important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. So typically 10 days, sometimes 5 to 7. If you want to make your offer a lot stronger, more aggressive, that would be suggested. The other contingency that we have, we're seeing this waived more and more lately, just this year. Like the rest of my career in real estate, rarely ever seen it waived unless it was a cash purchase, but it's the appraisal contingency. Buyers are starting to waive that.
Which is crazy, because you want to know that you're getting fair market value. And if you're going to waive that contingency, you need to be prepared to have above appraisal cost ready for your down payment.
Right.
A bank is not going to finance 10% more than it appraises at.
Right. And that's one thing that buyers, and the sad part of it is I feel like there are a lot of buyers out there waiving it that don't understand what it means by waiving it.
And they're going to lose their earnest money deposit if they don't watch it. They need to have that conversation with their agent.
And their agent, their lender, their somebody.
Absolutely.
They need to understand that there is a possibility that it might not appraise, and just waiving that contingency never means that your lender will not make you have an appraisal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can waive it, but your lender, they need to know the value of the property. I mean, that's their collateral. They need to know that it's worth it.
They are only going to give you a loan for the value of the property. So if the property does not appraise at the value that you're purchasing at, you're not going to get financing for the difference. Does not mean you can't make it work. You can come up with the difference. You can pay the extra cash. You can pay the shortage above the appraisal.
Or you can negotiate.
If you waive that appraisal contingency, you're kind of giving up your negotiation card, unless the seller really feels like they want to help you out.
Right.
But you're really giving up. You're waiving that contingency. You're giving up your card to negotiate. Now, in a scenario where, say for instance, a house is priced at $400,000. Okay, say the appraisal comes in at $350,000. That sounds crazy. Like, why would it come in $50,000 under you? It's not crazy, promise you. Not crazy, not today.
And nowadays, people are offering a higher price to try to get ahead of it because there's so many offers.
Yeah.
So they're offering above it. So on a $400,000 house, if you're putting 10% down, that's a down payment of $40,000.
Exactly.
But now you've got a $50,000 difference between appraisal and purchase price.
Yeah. So now you got to come in with $90,000,
Right.
And say that you only have 70. You waive the appraisal contingency. Now you're $20,000 short of the appraisal shortage. What does a buyer do? Well, you waive that contingency. So you have to understand your earnest money deposit is now at risk.
At risk, absolutely.
At risk. You waive that contingency, that's the repercussions for doing it. Of course, don't just give up and walk away. Talk to your agent. Have your agent talk to the other agent. Try to come to terms. Try to negotiate. Maybe try to find some extra funds. I don't know. $20,000 is a lot of money to find hidden in a closet somewhere. So, no.
But oftentimes the seller has gone this far, and
yeah,
you know,
and they may at least try.
Absolutely, never hurts to try.
Never hurts to try. At least try to come to terms. Try to negotiate. Try to see what you can do. There's always appraisal disputes.
Absolutely, and you can request a second appraisal. It's going to be out of pocket. It'll be another expense.
Depending on your loan type.
But you can request a second appraisal.
Absolutely. And you can also, try to challenge or dispute the appraisal. They do not always come out successful. Tried it many times.
And I'm not sure they're always quick either.
They're not always quick. And that's another thing. You have to talk to the seller to be able to work with you on that time frame and everything if you end up in that situation. So talk to your agent. Have your agent talk to their agent. So many things can be settled through conversation. Just trying to come to terms, try to make it a win-win. And if not, if you can't come to terms and you do not have the cash and you waived that appraisal contingency, then you have to do the right thing and forfeit your earnest money deposit and walk away. There are other things in place, such as loan contingency and things like that, which is the next thing that we'll get into is the loan contingency. Now, the loan contingency, to a point, could protect that, but really, at that point, we'd be getting into like a mediation dispute, because then it's like, they can't get financing because of the shortage of funds, but it all essentially came down to the appraisal. And that is the reason why the contract couldn't, come down, and that contingency was waived. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, you want to make a strong offer.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't always necessarily mean you have to waive the contingency completely. So what you could do in that scenario.
I love getting creative.
Get creative. We have like 10 lines of additional terms that we could fill out. So let's
get creative.
Let's get
think
creative.
outside the box.
Think outside the box. So one of the other things that you could do is, let's go back to this $400,000 house, okay? $400,000 house. We're looking at the comps because, buyer's agents, we gotta, when we're out shopping for a buyer, we want to look at the comps. We want to see, is there even a chance of it appraising? Sometimes there's a chance, it's trying to find. And I always do. If I see something that it could appraise if it went this scenario, I'll print those out, add it to the file, because if I come to having to challenge an appraisal, this is my argument.
You're good to go.
Yeah, I'm good to go. So find that out. Talk to the listing agent. Make sure the listing agent, where'd you come up with these numbers? Did you pull them out of a hat? Do you have something solid to back this that we can challenge an appraisal if we need to?
Right.
So do some research, have conversations. So many people are scared to just pick up the phone and talk to that other agent, but talk to them.
Absolutely.
Let's find out what we can find out. Right?
And nobody wants to pick up the phone anymore. Call. Don't text, just
call.
call.
They will appreciate it, because nothing, as a listing agent, there's nothing that you appreciate more than an agent on the other side that's trying to work with you to make it happen.
That's the thing, is listing agent has it's the same goal. You both want to get the house.
You both want to get the house sold.
You want to get the transaction done.
You want to get it done. You want to get those terms fulfilled. So
absolutely.
Work together. Yeah. It sounds so
it's
simple.
Not as adversarial as most people think.
Yes, it means so much, right? So say we're at this $400,000 house. Comps are looking like they're going to be around $350,000. Maybe we could push out $360,000, $370,000 if we get creative, right? But it doesn't look like it appraised at $400,000 unless there was a miracle. And there could be.
You never know.
Sometimes we get all bent out of shape about the appraisal, and we try to work all this crazy stuff, and the appraisal comes in at value, and you're like, yeah, okay, that was awesome. That was great, right?
Yep. Didn't see that coming, but yay.
Yay. Yes, so got everyone all worked up for nothing. So say we're looking at, maybe $360,000, $370,000. The buyer has $30,000. We know the buyer's willing to pay $30,000 difference of appraisal shortage if they have to. throw that in additional terms. Don't waive the appraisal contingency completely, but in additional terms, put buyers willing to pay up to $30,000 shortage if there is, in the event that there is an appraisal shortage. And that way we know that's the agreement. If the appraisal shortage exceeds $30,000, then the buyer can retain their EMD.
Retaining the EMD is what it's all about. You want to protect yourself.
Right.
You know, EMD is sometimes $5,000, $10,000, even more. You don't want to just hand it out. Oh, well, that didn't work here.
Yeah. You don't want to be thrown away on every offer, because then there goes your appraisal shortage.
Right. That's right.
But seriously, it's a lot of money that we're talking about here. So you want to, you want to be able to work that out. So don't be afraid to get creative. And one of the things that I tell, buyers sometimes too, think of what the sellers are going through. Owner-occupied seller, right? They're living in their home. They also have to go somewhere and live somewhere.
They have to pack up. They have to find a place to be. They've been putting the dogs away every time somebody comes and look at it. Maybe they don't want to keep putting the dogs away when somebody wants to come look at it.
Right.
And
what's going to work out for the sellers? Not every buyer has all this cash in their pocket. Sometimes, a lease backer telling them they could stay there 3 months for rent free means way more than waiving an appraisal contingency to a seller. So really start to, you're trying to get through this, start to think outside the box, but make sure you're not, I feel like, buyers are having to take more risks now than they ever did before.
Absolutely. It's hard to get into a house now.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
And there is risk involved, but make sure you understand the risks that you're waiving if you are waiving contingencies. The other contingency that is always going to be in a contract if you're financing is your loan contingency.
You have to get that loan, and if you can't get the loan, you can't buy the house. You need to make sure you protect your earnest money deposit by making sure you have that loan contingency. It's just so important.
Right, exactly. And can it be waived? Any contingency can be waived. You could choose the right to waive any contingency as long as you know waiving those contingencies
is such a risk.
Is risking your deposit. So buyer, you can take whatever risk you want. It's your money. You're the buyer. So what is it? What happens if you waive that loan contingency? Well, you want to talk to your lender.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You want to have a conversation with them on how solid is your financing looking? Because some people, you get the pre-approval before you start shopping. That's, if you're financing, you have to get your pre-approval.
Which is not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee. And you want to make sure you have a pre-approval, not a pre-qualification. Those are two separate, different things and mean a world of difference.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Pre-quals are yeah.
A pre-qual just means we had a conversation on the phone and sounds good, your credit score's all right.
Looks good, you may get a loan.
We know nothing else, yes. So you want to make sure that the loan officer has reviewed over all your paperwork, definitely looked at your scenario and ran it through DU or LP. That's called direct underwriting, and I don't even know what LP stands for, so sorry about that. But
it's the underwriters.
They're like computerized underwriting systems, and they basically can come out. It just adds another layer of security around there. So you want to make sure that has happened. You also want to make sure, there are so many times that I've had buyers that had talked to lenders in the beginning and they got that pre-approval letter, but they didn't mention something, right?
They didn't mention it, or once they got the pre-approval, they went out and bought all new furniture for this new house.
Something changed, right?
Don't change your credit. Just keep making your regular payments. Don't even pay off the credit card.
Don't breathe on your credit. Don't do anything that that would change your circumstance. Don't go buy a car. Don't open a credit line.
Nope.
Don't go buy new appliances. You don't do anything until you have your keys in hand.
Till after closing, that's right.
That is so, it's a, there's this like a real estate joke or myth that's always around that people think it's a joke of like, showing up to the closing table with your new car keys and the realtors and everybody's like, no. I've had it happen.
It's a myth because it's not a myth. It's a truth.
Not a myth. I have had it happen, and I'm like, what? No.
And the loan contingency is usually for a set time, so you might get through. You might get your loan in that 14 or 21 days or whatever, and then think, I'm in the clear. I'm all good. And 2 days before closing, you go out and you get that new car.
No, they do an additional credit check. right before closing to make sure you didn't open up any new lines of credit.
And if you're outside that timeline, there
Yep.
goes your deposit.
Yep, on your closing documents, you're going to sign something that says, I did not open up any new lines of credit. Don't do it. Just don't do it. And especially if you're waiving that loan contingency, you're risking your deposit.
Absolutely.
You're going to lose that money if your loan gets denial because of something you did. So just don't do it. And then again, when you start with the pre-approval process, there might be something that you thought you got away with, and child support's one of those things where people are like, oh, I never mentioned child support to the lender and they never found it. I got this pre-approval letter and now we're all in contract and we're going through this and I got away without them finding out about it. So we're going to be good. No, they'll find out about it in underwriting. So if there's anything that you're not telling them, that you're holding back, that you might think like, oh, they're not going to find out, they will find out in underwriting.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, once they get approved, maybe they go into forbearance or something like, I already got approved. It's okay. Doesn't matter. They're not.
It's not okay.
They're not. No, they'll find out.
They'll find out. They will find out everything. When they go through underwriting, they will ask you for your firstborn child, some blood samples.
Right, I was going to say your blood type, your dog's name, everything.
Everything. They know everything about you. Just make sure that you're not doing that. And if you are going to waive any of those contingencies, you need to have a serious conversation with your lender to make sure you're not putting yourself at risk, putting your earnest money deposit at risk. Not saying that you, and of course, any contingencies that you waive, you're adding more risk. But sometimes people have to do it to be able to get their offers accepted, and I get it.
They do. You need to make them stronger. Absolutely.
You need to make
in today's
them stronger.
market.
Other people are doing it, so you're competing against people that are doing it. It is, it is just, it's the sign of the times that we're in.
Is.
Not always the best news, but you can make it happen. The last contingency that we want to talk about, we've touched about this on some other shows and things too. You have a home to sell, right? You have a home to sell. You need the down payment for your new home
to come from the sale.
Proceeds of the sale of your home. So that home has to sell in order for you to purchase. That's called a contingent upon sale. You're making your offer to the new seller for the home that you're purchasing contingent upon the sale of your other home.
Right.
So there's so many different layers that we could go into. We could probably have a whole show on this topic, right? Because there's so much that you can do with this. Your home could already be in escrow. It could just be on the market. Maybe you don't have a buyer yet, and then you're really going to have to commit to time frames with this new seller, which is going to put you in a tight bind too.
And if it's already in escrow, you might think you're home free. Oh, it's in escrow. I got this. This is going to be my equity, and it's totally my down deposit, my earnest money deposit, my down payment. But you need to have a conversation with the buyer of your current home to see how solid they are.
Yeah. Have your realtor talk to that agent. Have the realtor talk to your buyer's loan officer if they're financing. Make sure your contingencies are gone. Like, make sure if you're going to waive that contingent upon sell agreement, which a lot of times to get your offers accepted, you're gonna have to waive that, which means that you're risking your EMD as collateral. It doesn't mean that, it just means that if it doesn't work out, that you're okay with losing that earnest money deposit. You're just going to have to understand the risk and make sure that your buyers have done their home inspections. They've passed their due diligence. If they're financing, you want to make sure they've passed their appraisal. Everything that could cause your buyers to cancel has already passed. Again, talk to your agent.
Have the conversations. It's so important to have conversations. Don't be passive in your transaction.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right.
So many people are like, oh, well, I thought about that. I didn't know what it meant. Didn't want to bug
I didn't want to look stupid.
Agent or look stupid or whatever. That's what we're here for. And really essentially just kind of the topic of this whole show is when it comes down to contingencies, waiving them, your earnest money deposit and the protections that are in place for it, you need to make sure that you understand what you're doing, what it means, what risk you could have, and essentially, can you make it happen?
Absolutely. You need to weigh the pros and cons. All contingencies, they have to be in writing and they have to be agreed upon by both parties. You can put any contingency you want in there,
Yeah,
but they have to be agreed upon by both parties or they're not
yeah, yeah.
valid.
Yeah, and you could throw some crazy ones in there. We've had some.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Get
There've been some
creative,
interesting
yeah.
ones.
Get creative. It's like, and we've had things like that, it's just like an odd contingency that someone needed for some reason, contingent upon my son moving out and going to college.
Right.
I haven't seen that one, but
It's coming.
it's coming. Yeah, so no, there's definitely when you're talking about a real estate contract additional terms, you can throw things in there, and if the seller agrees to them, it's got to be, there's got to be conversations. The more contingencies you add, the lower your chances are of getting your offers accepted.
They do weaken your offers for sure.
And the longer those contingency timeframes, it's another thing to talk to your lender about. If you're asking for 30-day loan contingency on every contract that you're writing, but your lender's like, hey, I could get this done in 25 days, shorten up those contingencies. They're going to make your offer stronger. Do what you can, but don't put in a 14-day loan contingency and your lender's like, I could never make that happen. What do you expect out of me, right?
Right.
You want to make sure that everything that you're doing is realistic and you can abide by it, because if you can't, you're going to lose that deposit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't have that money to give away. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, no, you're gambling, right? I mean, this is
Absolutely.
Vegas. Do what you want. But
And the house always wins.
yeah, right. So it's definitely, just good things, and a lot of things can be handled through conversation and questions.
Absolutely. Being informed is key.
Being informed is
Being
the key.
informed, weighing your pros and cons.
Yeah, absolutely. So Liz, it was so great having you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining me and for this conversation and talking about all this good stuff.
It was so much fun. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Liz, how do people reach you?
Liz at specialagentliz.com or 702-300-3819.
I love
here.
that, Special Agent
Special
Liz.
Agent Liz.
Liz Lane, I'm always like, she sounds like a superhero. And then Special Agent Liz, I love it. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show. You guys know how to reach me. Realty check at Trish Williams team. You guys, my phone number, wherever you're watching, you'll have my phone number and information. So you want to know more about purchases, you want to know more about contracts, you want to know more about anything, reach out to us. We're always happy to help, always happy to answer your questions and take your calls. Stay tuned. We are going to, if you're watching us on Facebook, we're going to be streaming a live video of one of my listings that's on the market. Low inventory, right?
It's a beautiful house, though. I love this house.
It is a beautiful house. Where inventory is so low right now, people are looking for homes, and a lot of these out-of-state buyers don't know all these pockets in Vegas that have some really awesome, really cool homes, and this is one of those pockets. Hidden gems, one of those locations that the first time I was there, I was like, whoa, where is this?
Exactly.
It's just one of those spots that's amazing. No association, a huge lot, corner lot.
And immaculate.
Beautiful
the
house.
The home is so well maintained. It's immaculate. It's great layout.
Absolutely. Great layout, immaculate, beautiful home. So on our next stream here on the show, if you're watching us on Facebook, we're going to have that home featured and show you a walkthrough of it. So stay tuned. We'll see you guys next week on Realty Check.